Hi, I'm Dr. Fox, and let's talk about the liver. In this video, we'll discuss the locations and functions of the liver, the lobes and principal constituents of the segments of the liver, the basic relationships and physiological processes of the liver in terms of both blood flow and the movement of bile, and we'll describe the peritoneal ligaments of the liver with an emphasis on the relationships of the visceral surface of the liver, especially the porta hepatis with its vessels. The liver is a massive intraperitoneal organ that is found mostly in the right upper quadrant, but also spills over a little bit into the left upper quadrant as well. It is an accessory organ of digestion. It produces a substance known as bile, which is very important for the emulsification of lipids. So we surround these lipids with bile so that we can break them down into smaller and smaller bits. The liver is also important for sequestering iron and glucose, as well as converting ammonia to urea, and the dynamic filtering of blood, where it gives the kidneys a boost as well in their functions. The liver can be viewed through the lens of the anatomist or the physiologist. The anatomist sees the liver as consisting of four lobes: a right lobe, a left lobe, and here we have a right and a left lobe. So this is posterior and this is anterior, as well as a quadrate lobe that's behind the gallbladder here, and a caudate lobe. Whereas the physiologist sees 8 segments. So these are functional units of the liver, which has branches from the portal triad. The portal triad's major constituencies include the hepatic portal vein, which brings blood into the liver from the digestive tract. So all of those absorbed nutrients from the gut tube are coming in through the portal vein. Blood in from the hepatic artery proper, or the HAP. So that's a branch of the common hepatic artery from the celiac trunk. So 2 sources of blood coming into the liver. And then bile, which is produced in the liver and leaves through the biliary pathway down to the major duodenal papilla so that it can work in the midgut. Now, when we look at these relationships, these physiological processes, so here we have branches of the hepatic artery proper going into the porta hepatis. So that's oxygenated blood heading into the sinusoids of the liver. Those are spaces around and between the hepatocytes. We also have venous blood that contains nutrients from the digestive system, complements of that hepatic portal system coming in. So that venous blood is mixing with the arterial blood in the sinusoids. Blood from the sinusoids will travel into and out of hepatocytes. The blood itself is returned to the inferior vena cava, or the caval system, via hepatic veins. So generally there are between 3 to 5 of these hepatic veins that connect the liver to the inferior vena cava. And then bile are excreted from the bile canaliculi down the biliary tree, which we'll see in a subsequent video, through that major duodenal papilla into the second part of the duodenum. So 2 sources of blood in, 1 source of blood out, and 1 source of bile out. The liver also has several surfaces, which I've color-coded for you here. So the superior portion of the liver is known as the superior surface. So that's an anterior view of the liver. We can also see the anterior surface of the liver there. We can see the right surface of the liver up against the right rib cage there. There's also a posterior surface, so this is a posterior view of the liver where we can see the superior surface there, the right surface there, and then there is the posterior surface. We can begin to get a view of the inferior surface of the liver as well, which is known as the visceral surface. So in an inferior view of the liver, the only thing which is visible is that inferior or visceral surface of the liver. And it's that visceral surface or inferior surface of the liver which is an important constituent for moving materials in and out of the liver. There are also several peritoneal ligaments of the liver. These are condensations of visceral peritoneum that attach or anchor the liver to other structures. First and foremost, there are coronary ligaments, which help to anchor the liver out to the diaphragm. These coronary ligaments also are adjacent to triangular ligaments that also help to further anchor the liver to the diaphragm along that posterior body wall. We have a falciform ligament. That falciform ligament is going to run between right and left lobes of the liver, and that goes up to the diaphragm to help anchor the liver there. And in close association with the falciform ligament, deeper but extending down, is something known as the round ligament of the liver, aka the ligamentum teres hepatis. And that round ligament of the liver is a remnant of an embryonic vessel that's going to connect the umbilicus up to the blood supply going to the fetal heart. And so in the adult, that forms this round ligament of the liver, not to be confused with the round ligament of the uterus. The liver also participates in the lesser omentum via the hepatogastric ligaments, which we've discussed, and the hepatoduodenal ligaments, which we've discussed, which are constituents of that lesser omentum. Now let's take a look at the visceral surface of the liver, and in particular, a region intermediate between the caudate and quadrate lobes, bound by both the left and right lobes, known as the porta hepatis. The porta hepatis is going to conduct the portal triad. Recall that's branches of the hepatic artery proper, HAP, tributaries of the hepatic portal vein, and portions of the biliary pathway as well. Joining that will be the hepatic nerve plexus, so that's the autonomic plexus that comes from both the anterior vagal trunk as well as some thoracic splanchnic branches as well, and lymphatics, because anytime we have vasculature, we also have lymphatics as well. Adjacent to that is the round ligament, which we can see here, separating left from right lobe. That round ligament is an embryonic vestige of the umbilical vein that would carry richly oxygenated blood from the umbilicus that's coming from the placenta up to the fetal heart. And we can also see an association with this region on the visceral surface, the gallbladder. The gallbladder may either be intraperitoneal, so it can occupy space in that peritoneal cavity, or it can be intrahepatic. So sometimes a gallbladder can be completely surrounded by the parenchyma of the liver as well. And there is a cystic duct that connects the gallbladder to the biliary tree, and bile secreted through the right and left hepatic ducts through then the common hepatic duct will meet up with that cystic duct and move bile from the liver into the gallbladder for storage, where it can then be secreted down a common hepatic duct, as we'll see. So we've discussed the liver, where it is and what it does, its principal lobes and what segments of the liver are, the basic relationships of the physiological processes of moving blood and bile to, through, and away from the liver, as well as the peritoneal ligaments of the liver with an emphasis on that visceral surface, especially the porta hepatis and the vessels that relate to it. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll talk to you later.